Chapter 13. Keys. I wasn't late, but a bit early when John sauntered into the bar, which was full of guys getting off from Wounded Inked, and a few women who worked there had joined them. As they passed, they recognized me, tapped me on the shoulder, and sauntered to the bar, and some gathered into the booths. Maybe I could hide in plain sight, because most of the soldiers were straight who'd been employed at Wounded Inked, and the ones who were gay didn't make a big to-do about their sexual persuasions like Parker. Parker had been proud of his accomplishments, and his husband, Tony, and the fact that they had a loving relationship and a family life with children and dogs. Therefore, since the bar on some nights had a gay clientele, this night was different, and John wouldn't know until the night was over, or unless I decided to reveal to him about my marriage to Cole. John would have to be drunk, and he wouldn't remember anything, especially that I'd changed teams in the middle of the third innings of my life, and I could send him on his way with old memories of his friend. Since John was a drinker when we were in our 20s, and he looked like he still enjoyed a beer or two from seeing his stomach, when he neared the bar where I sat on a stool, I could see his beard with specks of blonde, reddish, and gray hair. He hadn't changed much, but for the gray with his hair a little thinner, but he could lose some of that thick mane, and no one would notice the belly he'd accumulated because of age and a few beers. Cole had kept me in the gym, but that had slackened because of overwork and not paying attention to diet. As I sat and watched John get closer, I wondered what he'd think of me. What inner judgments he'd made after all these years. When he'd closed the distance enough, he recognized me. John's clothing hadn't changed much with the t-shirt, and over it a red lumberjack plaid shirt and a pair of jeans. Before I could tell him who I was, he said, "Keys, how the fuck are you? I'd know you anywhere." I stood and wrapped my arms around him, and we hugged and patted each other several times on the back. I pulled away. "I'm good. Do you want to sit at the bar, or in a booth?" "Bar is good. I don't like to be too far from the drinks," he said with a chuckle. "Bar it is," I said, and we sat, looked each other over waiting for the barmaid. The barmaid stood in front of us. "What is it tonight, Keys?" I glanced over at John. "Make mine a bourbon neat," John said. "I don't want ice." The barmaid smiled and reached for a bottle to pour. "Do you have Kentucky bourbon?" "Sure," she said, and reached for another bottle and poured it for John. "Make mine over rocks and keep the drinks coming because the drinks are on me," I said. "You don't have to, I'm doing okay in my business now," John replied. "And so am I, but this is my town, John, and you're a visitor, so don't fight me on who gets the check because you can't win. Remember, I was a soldier once." "I know, Keys. I talked to your mother, and she said that you weren't doing well, but look at you, that girl must have worked miracles with you." Now was the time to tell John and see what kind of man or friend he'd become over the years, but I wasn't drunk enough, and neither was he. Yeah, miracles were worked by everyone who cared. I had to change the subject and fast. The barmaid had placed my drink in front of me, and I sipped mine, and John took 2 sips and he was ready for another. I raised my hand, and the barmaid brought him another refill. "Are you driving, John?" "I thought I'd take a cab back to the Days Inn where most of my friends are staying tonight." Good, I got that out of the way, because there was no way in hell I'd let him get on a motorcycle or in a car the way he was downing those drinks. "Come on, tell me what you were doing the last time I saw you," I asked. I wanted to get him talking to see where his head was. "You said that you were going to take over your father's company when he died." "And I did." He turned to me, his eyes glistening, and I saw tears pool. "I drove his business into the ground. I married this woman, and she wanted more than I could afford, and I tried to make her happy by buying her cars and a home, not putting money into the business, in debt everywhere. We had children, and I don't know where they are now. They hate my guts because they said I'd fucked up their inheritance. My mistake was to let John talk, and he told me all his failures and disappointments since I'd last seen him, and I didn't think my life had turned out too bad. What difference did it make if you were with the wrong man or the wrong woman? It all seemed to come down to that one thing, the one person who would make you better as a human being. This looked like the right time to tell John, but I chose not to. He appreciated that he could cry on my shoulder, and I didn't want him to have to make any decisions about our friendship, and neither did I want to have to turn away from a childhood friend because we'd grown apart. I'd prefer to leave things as they were, old friends getting together for a drink who might never see each other again, and talking about old times good and bad. After a few hours of me telling John about how I started my business, and omitting the major person in my life, the most important details, it was time to call John a cab, and that was what I did, and after helping him into it, I drove home to Cole, who was waiting up for me. The lights were on, but normally if he'd given up and gone to bed, all I'd see would be a flicker of the television through the shutters if he forgot to close them.